Today we're reading chapter 46 of Holes. 500 seconds later, his heart was still beating. Mr. Bodansky screamed, and the lizard which had been in the cereal box was springing toward him. Mr. Sir shot out in mid-air. Stanley let the blast shatter the air around him, and the lizard scurried frantically across his very still body. He did not flinch. A lizard ran across his closed mouth. Ooh, I couldn't imagine that. He glanced at Zero, and Zero's eyes met his. Somehow they were both still alive, at least for one more second, one more heartbeat. Mr. Sir stood there and just watched them. And he said, "Maybe we should just get rid of these boys," suggested Mr. Bodansky. "Who?" asked the counselor. "The lizards or the kids?" Mr. Bodansky just laughed grimly. "Ha ha ha. The kids are going to be gone anyway," he laughed. "At least we got plenty of graves to choose from." "We've got time," said the warden. "I've waited this long, I can wait another few." And her voice just kind of trailed off. Stanley felt a lizard crawl in and out of his pocket. "We're going to keep our story simple," said the warden. "That woman's going to ask a lot of questions. The AG will most likely initiate an investigation. So this is what happened." So now they're going to come up with a story to cover the reason why Stanley and Zero disappeared. Stanley tried to run away in the night, fell in a hole, and the lizards got him. That's it. We're not going to even go and give them Zero's body. As far as anybody knows, Zero doesn't exist. Like Mom said, we got plenty of graves to choose from. "Why would he run away if he knew he was getting released today?" asked Mr. Bodansky. "Who knows? He's crazy. That was why we couldn't release him yesterday. He was delirious, and we had to keep watch over him so he wouldn't hurt himself or anybody else." So that's even more part of the story that they're going to tell. "She's not going to like it," said Mr. Bodansky. "She's not going to like anything we tell her," the warden said. And we stared at Zero and at the suitcase. "Why aren't you dead yet?" she asked. Well, Stanley only half listened to talk to the counselors. He didn't know who that woman was or what the AG meant. He didn't even realize they were initials. It sounded like one word, AG. His mind was focused on the tiny claws that moved up and down his skin and through his hair. He tried to think about other things. He didn't want to die with the images of Warden, Mr. Sir, and the lizards etched into his brain. Instead, he tried to see his mother's face. His brain took him back to the time when he was little, all bundled up in a snowsuit. He and his mother were walking, hand in hand, mitten in mitten, when they both slipped on some ice and fell and rolled down a snow-covered hillside. They ended up at the bottom of the hill. He remembered. He almost cried, but instead he laughed. His mother laughed too, so they were having a great time. He could feel the same lightheaded feeling he felt then, dizzy from rolling down the hill. He felt the sharp coldness of the snow against his ear. He could see flecks of snow on his mother's bright and cheery face. This was where he wanted to be when he died. "Hey, caveman, guess what? You're innocent after all. I thought you'd like to know that. Your lawyer came to get you yesterday. Too bad you weren't here." The words meant nothing to Stanley, who was still in the snow. He and his mother climbed back up the hill and rolled down again, this time on purpose. Later, they had hot chocolate together with lots of melted marshmallows. So he's just tuning Mr. Sir, the warden, and Mr. Bodansky out totally. "It's getting close to 4:30, said Mr. Bodansky. "They'll be waking up." So we're talking about 4:30 in the morning. Remember, these boys have to get up super early because of the heat in the afternoon. The warden told the counselors to return to the tents. She told them to give the campers breakfast and to make sure they didn't talk to anyone. As long as they did as they were told, they wouldn't have to dig any more holes. If they talked, they would be severely punished. "Well, how should we say they're going to be punished?" said one of the counselors. "Let them use their imaginations," said the warden. Stanley watched the counselors return to the tents, leaving only the warden and Mr. Sir behind. He knew the warden didn't care whether the campers dug any more holes or not. She found what she was looking for, which was the treasure. He glanced at Zero. A lizard was perched on his shoulder. Zero remains perfectly still, except for his right hand, which slowly formed into a fist. Then he raised his thumb, giving Stanley the thumbs up sign. Stanley thought back to what Mr. Sir had said to him earlier, and the bits of conversation he had overheard. He tried to make sense out of it. Mr. Sir had said something about a lawyer, but Stanley knew his parents couldn't afford a lawyer. His legs were sore from remaining rigid for so long, just standing still. It was more strenuous than walking. He slowly allowed himself to lean against the side of the hole, and the lizards didn't seem to mind. I wonder why Zero gave him the thumbs up sign. I don't know. We'll find out. Think about it. You reckon he has a plan in mind? Well, we'll see. Chapter 47 will come up soon on Monday. Bye-bye.